In every corner of the world, there are secrets. Stories that have existed beyond understanding, patiently waiting. And we've come to uncover those secrets, to venture into places where darkness never ends. Welcome to Dynamic Dark. Welcome to a brand new horror episode. Welcome to episode 59. I'm Aditya and today I bring you 3 terrifying haunted stories. New week, new fear. In our last episode, episode 58, we explored Indian urban legend, horror stories. If you missed it, the link is in the description. Make sure to check it out. So, let's begin episode 59. If you are new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications bell if you dare to see what comes next. Today we'll explore 3 haunted stories, each terrifying in its own way. The first story is the closet. The second story is the elevator. And the third story is the bathroom. If you love horror like this, then you are in the right place, because only on Dynamic Dark will you experience creepypasta style horror blended with real psychological and haunted elements. For the best experience, put on your earphones or headset. Let the darkness, the suspense, and the fear consume you. If your room lights are on, turn off the lights for cinematic and scary experience. Now, let's begin today's first story, the closet.
A teenager had just moved into her new apartment. The room was small, almost claustrophobic, with bare walls and a faint, lingering smell of old paint. The single overhead light flickered occasionally, casting uneven shadows across the corners. In the far corner stood a plain closet, its paint chipped and the handle worn from years of use. She had unpacked her essentials, arranged her belongings neatly, and tried to make the space feel like home, but a strange unease settled over her. Something felt off. The first night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she thought she heard something, faint scratching, soft and irregular. It came from the closet. Her heart raced. She sat up, straining to listen. The sound stopped abruptly. Silence filled the room. She shook her head, telling herself it was nothing, just the wind or the old building settling. But sleep did not come easily. The second night, the scratching returned, louder and more deliberate. It moved along the walls of the closet, a soft, almost rhythmic tapping. She wrapped herself tightly in her blanket, each nerve on edge. The sound paused whenever she tried to focus on it, then started again once she looked away. Fear held her back from opening the door. Her mind warned her, some things were better left alone. By the third night, the apartment felt oppressive. Shadows stretched across the floorboards. Every creak, every whisper of wind sounded deliberate. The closet door, no matter how firmly closed, always seemed slightly ajar. She could feel the room shrinking around her, the air colder, the tension heavier. Each time the scratching began, she froze, her mind racing. What could possibly be inside a space too small for anyone to fit? And yet, the sound suggested movement, awareness, something waiting silently in the dark. The boy tried to ignore it. Each night, though, the scratching from the closet grew louder, more deliberate, echoing in the small room. His heart raced every time he passed the closet, every step heavy with unease. At first, he told himself it was the building settling, the wind brushing against the old walls, anything rational. But deep down, he knew it was something else, something unseen, listening, aware of him. He noticed the smallest details now. The way the closet door seemed slightly off its hinge, the shadows along the floor stretching just a little too far, the faint creak that would come precisely when he was nearest. His mind replayed the noises in the quiet of the day, each echo growing larger, more menacing in his imagination. Even when he told himself it was nothing, his body refused to believe it. Walking past the closet became an ordeal. His steps slowed, hands slightly trembling, every nerve on edge. The air around the room seemed colder, heavier, pressing in on him. The scratching would stop when he looked directly, only to resume moments later when he faced away. It was relentless, persistent, like a silent challenge he could neither accept nor escape. Sleep became harder. Every creak, every whisper of the building felt amplified. Shadows along the walls seemed to shift just beyond his vision, and though he never saw anything emerge, the feeling of being watched never left. His chest tightened with each passing night, each moment in the room a test of courage. He wanted to open the closet, to see what was there, but an instinct buried deep inside warned him against it. The small room that once felt safe now pulsed with unseen tension. Each night, the scratching reminded him the space was no longer just four walls and a closet, it was alive with an awareness that made every second unbearable. One night, curiosity finally got the better of Ethan. The scratching from the closet had been relentless for days, a subtle but constant reminder that something in the small room was waiting, watching. Each time it began, his mind raced with impossible questions. What could possibly be inside that closet? Each nerve in his body screamed not to open it, yet a strange compulsion, a pull he couldn't resist, urged him forward. He sat on the edge of the bed, hands trembling as they hovered over the worn wooden handle. The flickering overhead light cast uneven shadows across the bare walls, shadows that seemed to shift and stretch as his heart pounded. The room, once just a simple small apartment, now felt alive, oppressive, heavy, every breath dense. In the far corner, the black ghost he had glimpsed before lingered, thick and solid, motionless yet palpable, as if aware of his intentions. Its presence made the air feel colder, tighter, almost pressing against him. Ethan took a shallow breath and leaned closer, every muscle tense. The scratching stopped abruptly the moment he reached for the door, leaving only silence so sharp it pierced his ears. He froze, staring at the closet, his body frozen between instinct and curiosity. Slowly, he inched his hand toward the handle, every second stretching endlessly. The black ghost's silhouette seemed to shift slightly, taller, hunched differently, leaning subtly as if tracking his movements. Each subtle change in its posture made his pulse race faster, his mind teetering between dread and fascination. Finally, his fingers closed around the cold handle. He hesitated, heart hammering, every instinct screaming retreat, but the urge to see was stronger. With deliberate slowness, he pulled the door open. Darkness greeted him, thick and unremarkable, yet the presence in the room did not leave. The black ghost had moved again, slightly taller, arms subtly forward, silhouette denser than before, standing silently, watching. The scratching began anew, faint but deliberate, echoing across the cramped room. Ethan froze, caught between fear and an irresistible desire to uncover what lurked in the shadows, realizing that some mysteries, once noticed, refused to let go, and that the room itself seemed alive with quiet, observing tension.
Ethan's hand trembled as he gripped the closet handle. The scratching had stopped, but the silence was heavier than any sound he had heard before. Taking a deep breath, he pulled the door open. Darkness greeted him, so complete that it seemed to swallow the weak flicker of the overhead light. The closet was impossibly small, too tiny for anyone or anything to hide. Yet the sensation of being watched did not leave. A shiver ran down his spine as if the air itself had grown colder. He hesitated, staring into the black void, every instinct warning him to step back. Then, as if out of nowhere, he felt it, a cold breath brushing against the back of his neck. Heart hammering, he spun around quickly. Nothing. The room appeared empty, the black ghost nowhere in sight. His pulse raced, and his breathing came in shallow bursts. Sweat pricked his forehead as he tried to make sense of the emptiness. Gathering courage, he slowly turned back toward the closet. The darkness inside seemed to stretch deeper than before, unnaturally so. Shadows along the walls shifted, and for a moment, he thought he saw movement, the thick black ghost's silhouette subtly different from any previous night, partially visible at the corner. It was as if the ghost had slipped into the void and now waited silently, observing his every move. Ethan's hands shook as he stepped closer. Each sound in the room, the faint creak of floorboards, the flickering light, the scratch of air against the walls, felt magnified, amplified by the tension pressing in from all sides. He realized the small apartment was no longer just walls and a closet, it had become a space alive with anticipation, watching him back. And then, without warning, the scratching resumed, soft but deliberate, echoing through the room. Ethan froze again, caught between fear and the irresistible need to see what the darkness was hiding, realizing that some presences do not need space to exist, they only need attention. Ethan's fingers barely touched the cold handle of the closet. The small room felt heavier than ever, each breath thick and tense. He had already faced the persistent scratching, the oppressive presence, and yet curiosity and dread had drawn him back. The faint flicker of the overhead light barely illuminated the far corner where the black shadowy figure now hovered inside the closet. Thick, solid, motionless, its hollow eyes glowed faintly, scanning the room as if it had been waiting for this exact moment. His heart hammered in his chest as he stepped closer. Every instinct screamed to retreat, but he could not tear his eyes away. The shadow remained still, an unsettling calm that pressed against the edges of his mind. Ethan's hand trembled on the handle, his knuckles white, and the air seemed impossibly cold, brushing against his skin like invisible fingers. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards beneath him. Slowly, Ethan inhaled and pushed the door further open. The black shadow did not flinch. Its hollow eyes remained fixed on him, its form unchanging yet undeniably aware. He felt the oppressive presence inching closer without moving, as if the air around the figure itself carried intent. Every heartbeat was amplified, every second stretched into unbearable tension. He wanted to look away, to run, yet he was frozen, trapped by fascination and fear. Then, the subtle, almost imperceptible movement, the shadow shifted slightly closer, the glow of its eyes intensifying, as if confirming it had noticed him. Ethan's chest tightened, and his stomach churned. The room's small walls seemed to shrink around him, yet the figure remained solid, thick, and incomprehensibly near. Every instinct screamed danger, but he could not escape the gaze. The black shadow had become the room, and the room had become the shadow. The scratching had ceased, replaced now by a tense, suffocating awareness, an invisible force pressing against him, watching, waiting, daring him to act. Ethan's hand shook as he slammed the closet door shut. The sound reverberated through the small apartment, echoing off the bare walls, a final attempt to claim control over the oppressive presence he had faced all night. He turned the lock with trembling fingers, the metal clicking sharply, and stepped back. The room felt slightly lighter now, yet the air remained thick with tension. Every instinct screamed that the black shadow, the thick, solid figure he had glimpsed inside the closet, was still there, watching silently, waiting for a moment to reassert itself. He tried to calm his racing heart, leaning against the wall and exhaling shakily. The flickering light above barely illuminated the larger bedroom, casting long, irregular shadows across the corners. Each shadow seemed to move subtly, teasing his imagination. Ethan told himself it was over for the night, that the locked door was enough to keep the presence at bay. Yet, a deep, undeniable awareness lingered, pressing on his mind. He could almost feel it, the silent gaze of the thick black ghost, observing, patient, relentless. Finally, he climbed into bed, pulling the covers tightly around himself, seeking comfort and safety. Every creak of the floor, every faint draft, made him jump. He tried to sleep, telling himself it was only exhaustion, only imagination. But even as his eyes closed, he knew some presences do not vanish when doors are locked. The black ghost, with its hollow, unreadable silhouette, remained. It hovered in the dark corners of the room, motionless but aware, always watching. Ethan felt it in the air, felt it in his chest, a quiet, persistent reminder that the apartment, the closet, and the shadows themselves were no longer just empty space, they were alive with the unseen, a silent observer of every breath he took. Alan stepped into the elevator late at night, the building nearly empty, corridors silent except for the faint hum of the fluorescent lights. The elevator was tiny, the walls close and slightly worn, giving him a subtle sense of unease he couldn't shake. The buttons glimmered dimly, each number faintly illuminated, the metallic panel cool under his fingers as he pressed his floor. For a moment, everything seemed normal. The gentle whir of the cables and the soft humming of the lights were the only sounds, lulling him into a false sense of calm. But then, a sudden shudder ran through the elevator, rattling the small cabin. Alan's heart skipped a beat, and he instinctively gripped the handrail. The lights flickered violently for a moment, throwing erratic shadows across the metallic walls, before settling back to their dim glow. The buttons blinked in an almost deliberate pattern, some fading, some lighting up in ways he hadn't pressed. The elevator's motion slowed unnaturally, and Alan realized they weren't moving. Panic prickled at the edges of his mind. The cabin was stuck, suspended between floors, the building eerily silent outside. He pressed the emergency button, the faint click echoing back at him, but no response came. The lights flickered again, longer this time, casting long, jittery shadows across the walls. The metallic scent of the cabin seemed stronger now, mingling with the cold sweat forming on his forehead. Alan tried to steady his breathing, forcing himself to focus on something familiar, the handrail, the numbers on the buttons, the dull hum of the elevator cables, anything to anchor him in reality. Yet, with every second, the tiny space felt heavier, as if the walls themselves were pressing closer, closing in around him. Time stretched uncomfortably, each flicker of light and faint groan of the elevator sounding amplified in the silence. Alan's mind raced, imagining every possible scenario. What if the cables snapped? What if something was hiding in the shadows? His pulse thundered in his ears as he pressed his hands against the cold walls, trying to push back the claustrophobic panic. The elevator remained motionless, and a new, unsettling thought crept in. Maybe it wasn't just stuck, maybe it was waiting for him to notice something he couldn't yet see. The dim buttons, the flickering lights, the stillness. all combined to make Alan feel utterly exposed, trapped in a small, unyielding box where the ordinary rules of the building no longer seemed to apply. Alan's hand hovered over the emergency phone as the elevator remained suspended between floors. A sudden crackle echoed through the handset, making him jump. Then, a whisper hissed from the receiver, "Don't move." Alan laughed nervously, assuming it was a prank or a glitch in the building system. But the laughter died in his throat as the air grew inexplicably cold. His breath formed small, misty clouds that hung in the cabin, swirling around him in the dim light. The tiny elevator felt impossibly tight now, every wall pressing closer as though reacting to his fear. He gripped the handrail, trying to steady himself. The buttons glimmered intermittently, flickering in rhythm with the airy whisper. Shadows along the walls seemed to stretch unnaturally, forming shapes that twisted and disappeared when he blinked. Alan's mind raced, each sense heightened, every creak of the elevator amplified. A faint metallic smell filled the cabin, mingling with the icy air. His pulse thundered as he realized the cabin wasn't just stuck, it was alive in its stillness, reacting to his panic, mocking his attempts to rationalize what was happening. Then, movement at the edge of his vision. A thick black ghost silhouette appeared hunched low in the far corner, partially blending into the flickering shadows. Its shape shifted slightly, different from before, while its hollow, unreadable presence pressed silently against Alan's awareness. He turned sharply, but the figure vanished as quickly as it appeared. The whisper came again, closer this time, resonating through the cold air, sending shivers down his spine. Each exhale formed clouds that danced around the cabin, mingling with the shadowy forms that seemed to move independently. Alan's laughter was gone, replaced by tight, shallow breaths. Every instinct screamed to move, yet the icy air and the unseen eyes of the black ghost rooted him to the spot. Time stretched uncomfortably, the elevator remained motionless, the flickering lights revealing fleeting glimpses of different ghostly silhouettes along the walls, crouched, tall, hunched, leaning, each more unsettling than the last. The whispered words continued, a soft, chilling rhythm that echoed in the tiny, yet slightly bigger, cabin. Alan understood, with a sinking realization, the elevator wasn't just stuck between floors, it was waiting, and whatever haunted the space was fully aware of him. Alan's breath came in shallow bursts as the elevator remained suspended between floors. At first, he tried to convince himself it was imagination, the flickering lights, the icy mist, the shadows stretching across the metallic walls. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed it. A shadow in the far corner, black and shapeless, hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. It didn't move, yet its presence was undeniable, pressing against him, filling the cabin with a silent awareness. He froze, every nerve screaming, heart hammering in his chest. Each flicker of the lights seemed to reveal a slightly different silhouette, subtle variations in thickness, posture, and orientation, as if the shadow itself was alive and observing him from multiple angles at once. Alan's pulse raised, the elevator felt impossibly small despite its slightly larger size, every breath forming icy clouds that intertwined with the shadow's oppressive aura. He wanted to turn away, to retreat to the opposite corner, but the gaze of the shapeless figure held him in place, impossible to ignore. Time stretched uncomfortably, each second dragging endlessly. The faint hum of the elevator cables, the creak of floorboards, even the dim glow of the buttons amplified his fear. The black ghost remained motionless, yet Alan felt it everywhere, in the corners, behind the buttons, even in the space above his head. Every instinct told him to move, yet curiosity rooted him, an unwilling witness to the silent menace. The shadow's hollow eyes followed him with an unsettling patience, its presence a constant reminder that some horrors do not need to move to terrify. Alan's mind raced with impossible questions. How could something so still feel so alive? Was it watching him or waiting for him to make a mistake? Each heartbeat thundered like a warning in his ears. Despite the claustrophobic confines of the elevator, the thick, shapeless black ghost dominated the space, its silent gaze stretching across the cabin, leaving Alan aware of every small movement he made. He realized, with a sinking feeling, that the elevator was no longer just a machine suspended between floors, it had become a stage for the unseen, a confined space alive with observation, anticipation, and dread. The shadow that had remained still for so long finally changed. Slowly, deliberately, it began to rise. Not floating freely, not rushing, just lifting itself upward within the narrow space of the elevator, as if testing how much room it had. Alan's breath caught in his chest. His body stiffened, unable to move, eyes locked onto the thick black shape as it grew taller, darker, more defined against the metallic wall. The elevator felt smaller with every passing second. The walls didn't physically move, yet Alan sensed them closing in, the ceiling lowering, the corners tightening around him. The air thickened, heavy and cold, pressing against his lungs. Each breath felt like effort now. The shadow hovered closer to eye level, its hollow gaze fixed on him, unblinking, patient. It made no sound, but its silence was louder than any scream. Alan's instincts erupted all at once: run, push past it, escape, but reality crushed those thoughts immediately. There was nowhere to go. No doors to open. No floor to flee to. The elevator remained suspended between levels, a sealed box trapping him with something that did not belong there. His fingers dug into the handrail as his knees threatened to give out. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the freezing air. The lights flickered again, slower this time. With each flicker, the shadow appeared closer, its presence filling more of the cabin without ever fully touching him. Alan felt it everywhere, beside him, above him, behind him, even when he could only see it in front. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, drowning out the hum of the elevator cables. Time stretched painfully, each second dragging as fear wrapped tighter around his chest. The shadow stopped rising. It hovered there, perfectly still, as if waiting for Alan to break. His mind screamed at him to move, to do something, anything, but fear had rooted him in place. He realized then that the elevator wasn't just trapping his body, it was trapping his will. And as the black shape lingered in the shrinking space, Alan understood one terrifying truth: escape wasn't part of this moment. Endurance was. The elevator doors finally slid open with a tired metallic groan. Bright hallway lights flooded inside, instantly breaking the darkness. The corner where the shadow once stood was empty. Completely normal. Alan hesitated for a second, his body trembling as if the cold had seeped into his bones. He stepped out slowly, each footfall heavy, his heartbeat still racing. The air outside felt warmer, safer, yet the icy sensation clung to him stubbornly. His breath no longer fought, but the chill stayed under his skin. Alan turned back toward the elevator, half expecting to see the shadow rising again. There was nothing. Just steel walls, dull reflections, and flickering lights. The doors began to close. As the gap narrowed, Alan felt it, not behind him, not inside the lift, but close. Too close. like something standing just out of sight, pressing against the space beside him. His chest tightened. He swallowed hard, refusing to turn around. The hallway felt suddenly longer, quieter, as if sound itself had stepped away. The doors shut completely. Silence. Alan stood frozen, eyes fixed ahead, knowing one terrifying truth. Whatever had been inside the elevator hadn't followed him, it didn't need to. The presence lingered, unseen, unshaped, wrapped around his awareness. He walked away slowly, every step heavy with the certainty that the shadow no longer needed darkness to exist. Alan walks away from the building, night air hitting his face like a shock. His heart is still pounding, footsteps uneven, hands trembling as he tells himself it's over. The elevator doors had closed behind him, empty, silent, no shadow, no movement. He keeps repeating it in his head. Nothing followed him out. Yet the cold hasn't left. It clings to his spine, subtle but constant, like someone standing just a step too close. That night, sleep doesn't come easily. Every time he closes his eyes, he feels watched. Not threatened, observed. The sensation is calm, patient, terrifying in its stillness. Days pass. Life returns to normal, or so it seems. Until Alan steps into another elevator. Different building. Different floor. Different lights. But the moment the doors slide shut, the air changes. Thicker. Colder. He tells himself it's stress. Memory. Fear playing tricks. The elevator hums, smooth and quiet. Then the familiar feeling returns. Pressure, like eyes resting on the back of his neck. He doesn't turn this time. He already knows better. The mirrors show nothing unusual, yet his reflection looks tense, frozen, as if reacting to something just outside the frame. From then on, it happens every time. Hotel elevators. Office lifts. Parking garages. Always the same sensation, never a sound, never a clear shape. Just presence. Sometimes he feels it near the ceiling, sometimes pressed into a corner, sometimes directly behind him. Never moving. Never revealing itself. Waiting. Alan understands now, it didn't stay in that elevator. It learned him. It follows through enclosed spaces, through moments of stillness. He can walk away, step out, escape the ride, but not the awareness. Somewhere in the dark spaces between floors, something watches quietly, endlessly patient. And every time elevator doors close, Alan knows he is never alone. And the third story is the bathroom. Elise woke suddenly at 2 a.m., her throat dry and head heavy with half-formed dreams. The apartment was silent, the kind of silence that feels too deliberate, as if the night itself was holding its breath. She sat up slowly, blinking into the darkness, then swung her legs off the bed. The bathroom light was just across the small hallway. She told herself it was nothing, just another sleepless night. The bathroom door creaked softly as Elise pushed it open. The sound echoed louder than it should have, stretching unnaturally through the quiet apartment. The light flickered weakly when she flipped the switch, humming faintly before settling into a dim, uneven glow. The bathroom was tiny, tiled walls closing in, a narrow mirror above the sink, the shower curtain hanging still, unmoving. Shadows pooled in the corners where the light couldn't quite reach. Elise stepped inside and shut the door behind her, the click of the latch sending a strange chill through her spine. The air felt colder than the bedroom, damp and heavy, clinging to her skin. She stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her face looked pale under the flickering bulb, eyes slightly sunken, as if she hadn't slept in days. For a moment, the reflection felt delayed, not wrong, just off. She blinked, and it was normal again. The light flickered once more, briefly plunging the bathroom into darkness before returning. Elise exhaled sharply, gripping the edge of the sink. The tiles beneath her feet felt colder now, the silence thicker. Every small sound, the faint drip of the tap, the hum of the light, her own breathing seemed amplified in the cramped space. She tried to shake off the unease, telling herself she was just tired, just overthinking. But as she stood there, alone in the narrow bathroom, Elise couldn't escape the feeling that the space felt different, tighter, closer, as if the walls had subtly shifted while she wasn't looking. The mirror reflected everything, yet somehow felt like it was hiding something just beyond her view. She avoided looking at it again, her heart beating a little faster, unaware that this ordinary late-night routine was the beginning of something she wouldn't be able to explain or escape. As Elise washes her hands, a faint whisper brushes past her ear, slow, breathy, too close. She freezes. The mirror catches her movement a second late. Her reflection blinks after she does. The bathroom suddenly feels occupied. Elise slowly lifts her eyes to the mirror. Behind her reflection, a black ghost crouches silently, solid, human-shaped, its surface thick and dark. Hollow eyes glow faintly as it stares straight at her, unmoving, close enough that she can feel its presence breathing down her neck. Narration 4. Fear intensifies. She spins around, nothing. The bathroom is empty. But the air grows colder, tighter, as if the shadow has filled the space. Her heart races, every breath visible in the cold air. The mirror slowly fogs up as Elise stands frozen, her hands trembling over the sink. One by one, letters begin to appear, drawing through the mist as if by invisible fingers. I'm still here. Her breath catches in her throat. She tries to scream, but no sound comes out, her mouth opens, yet the bathroom absorbs her voice completely. The temperature drops sharply, every exhale turning white in front of her face. In the mirror, a black ghostly figure begins to stretch unnaturally, its thick dark form expanding from the edges, hollow eyes fixed on Elise. It doesn't rush. It inches closer, slow and deliberate, filling more of the reflection. Elise's heartbeat pounds in her ears as the mirror darkens, the words fading, replaced by the silent presence pressing closer, close enough that she can no longer tell where the reflection ends and where it begins. Elise locks the bathroom door and sinks to the floor, pressing her back against it, waiting for morning to come. When the sun finally rises, the cold is gone, the mirror clear, the bathroom silent as if nothing ever happened. She convinces herself it was exhaustion, a trick of shadows, a nightmare she carried into waking life. But throughout the day, something feels wrong. In the hallway mirror, she pauses, just for a second too long. In the elevator's reflection, her heartbeat quickens. In the dark glass of a shop window, she senses it again. Always behind her. Always just out of sight. The black ghost never shows itself fully, only hollow eyes in reflections, watching patiently. Elise understands the truth too late. It never stayed in the bathroom. It followed her. So that was the end of episode 59 of Dynamic Dark. If these chilling tales and haunted stories made you shiver, tell us in the comments which story kept you awake tonight. The most terrifying comment. I, Aditya, will pin it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications bell so you never miss our next descent into the unknown. And share this video with your friends and family if they can handle the fear. Have a haunted location, creepy encounter, or urban legend to share? Drop it in the comments. The idea with the most likes will be featured in our next episode. Episode 60 is coming soon, where we will dive deep into creepypasta horror stories, uncover darker mysteries, cursed places, and secrets that linger where the shadows never sleep. Stay tuned, keep watching, and dare to explore the terrifying unknown with Dynamic Dark every episode at 7:45 p.m.